I was elbow deep in server rack 4, breathing in that familiar mix of ozone and dust, when Gary showed up looking like he'd seen a ghost. The kid was shaking so hard I thought he might vibrate right out of his shoes. "Mr. Patterson," he stammered, "Adrian Montgomery wants to see you upstairs." "In the conference room. I'm Carl Patterson, 53 years old, and I've been keeping the lights on at this logistics company for 15 years. Before that, I spent 6 years in the Army handling military communications in places where a system failure could get people killed. So when some nervous intern tells me the CEO's son wants a meeting, I know it's not about my performance review." I wiped the thermal paste off my hands and headed upstairs. The conference room they call the fishbowl, all glass walls where careers go to die. I walked in without knocking because after 15 years, I figure I've earned that right. Adrian Montgomery was sitting in his daddy's chair, looking every inch the trust fund baby he is. 28 years old, MBA from some fancy school, and about as much real-world experience as a golden retriever. Next to him sat some kid in a hoodie that probably cost more than my truck payment, tapping away on an iPad like he was solving world hunger. "Carl," Adrian said without looking up from his phone, "thanks for coming. Take a seat." I stayed standing. I've been with this company since Adrian was in high school. I've survived 3 mergers, a ransomware attack that would have made the Russians proud, and the great coffee machine explosion of 2019. I don't sit for amateur hour. "What's up, Adrian? The network's green, backups are verified, and unless the building's on fire, I've got a migration to finish." He finally looked up, giving me that patronizing smile rich kids perfect in prep school. "Yeah, about that. We're making some strategic changes, moving to a cloud-native, synergy-focused infrastructure." I blinked. "Adrian, those are buzzwords. They don't mean anything. Our infrastructure is already hybrid cloud. I built it." "Right," he said, waving his hand like he was swatting a fly. "But it's clunky, old school. Like you. We need fresh eyes." He gestured to Hoodie Boy. "This is Lucas. He's going to be our new CTO, effective immediately." The silence could have shattered glass. I looked at Lucas, who couldn't have been older than 24, still tapping his iPad like this was all some kind of game. "CTO?" I said, my voice steady as a flat line. "Adrian, I report to your father. Where is he?" "Dad's flying to Tokyo. He put me in charge while he's gone, and my first executive decision is streamlining operations. We're letting you go, Carl." It hit me like a punch to the gut. 15 years. 15 years of 3 a.m. emergency calls, missing family barbecues because a database corrupted, babysitting servers older than the interns. And I was being replaced by a kid named Lucas who looked like he'd never held anything heavier than a smartphone. "You're firing me," I said. "We're making a transition," Adrian corrected, flashing that $1 million smile. "Severance package is standard, but we need your keycard and admin credentials. Now." Lucas finally spoke up. "Yeah, if you could just write down the root passwords on a sticky note, that'd be awesome." A sticky note. He wanted the keys to a multi-million-dollar logistics infrastructure on a sticky note. Army training kicked in. Never let them see you sweat. Never let them know what you're thinking. The anger was there, but I kept my face neutral. "Okay," I said quietly. Adrian looked surprised. "Okay? You want the keys? You got them." I pulled out my phone and opened the admin app I'd written myself because the vendor software was garbage. I tapped logout, then looked Adrian dead in the eye. "I'm logging out of the master control console, but you should know something before I walk out that door." Adrian rolled his eyes. "Make it quick, Carl. We have a synergy meeting." "The system," I said, my voice calm as a surgeon's, "is built on a dead man's switch. It requires my biometric handshake every 180 minutes to verify system integrity. It's a failsafe I installed after the 2021 breach. Your father authorized it." Adrian laughed. A wet, ugly sound. "Biometric handshake? What is this, Mission Impossible? Get real." "It's not a movie, Adrian. It's compliance. Without my scan, the validation protocols fail. When they fail, the system assumes hostile takeover. It locks down everything." "We'll just bypass it," Lucas said, not looking up from his iPad. "I know Python." I almost smiled. "Kid, this system is written in legacy COBOL and pure spite. Python won't save you. You have exactly 3 hours before the servers go dark. And when I say dark, I don't mean the lights go out. I mean the databases encrypt themselves, the vendor APIs sever connection, and the warehouse robots freeze in place." Adrian stood up, trying to loom over me. "You're bluffing. You're just trying to scare us into keeping you." I placed my company laptop on the table, set my badge on top of it, and looked at the clock. 10 o'clock a.m. Exactly. Tick-tock, Adrian, I said. You've got until 1 o'clock p.m. Good luck with that synergy. I walked out without slamming the door. Army discipline. No theatrics, just mission accomplished. The elevator ride down felt like freedom. People nodded as I passed the cubicle maze. Jennifer from dispatch, Scott from inventory. They had no idea their captain had just been thrown overboard and the ship was now being steered by a couple of kids who thought server was something that brought them coffee. I walked out to the parking lot where my F-150 sat waiting, reliable as sunrise. I fired up a cigarette and leaned against the tailgate. 3 hours. The clock was ticking, and upstairs 2 idiots were about to learn what happens when you mess with 15 years of carefully built infrastructure. There's a VFW bar across the street called Murphy's. Smells like sawdust and honest work. My kind of place. I walked in, ordered a bourbon neat, and set my personal phone on the bar. See, I'd built a shadow monitoring system that pinged my phone whenever the main server threw critical errors. Call it professional paranoia, but when you've been responsible for keeping a company alive for 15 years, you don't just walk away blind. The bartender was an older guy with navy tattoos covering his forearms. He poured my drink without asking questions. Military courtesy. I checked my watch. 10:15 a.m. The countdown had started. At 10:45 a.m. my phone buzzed. User authentication failed. Login attempt from executive suite. I smirked into my glass. They were trying to get in. Hey Lucas, I imagined Adrian saying, it's not letting me log in. Says guarantor key missing. Try password 123, Adrian would suggest, because he's exactly that stupid. My phone buzzed again. It's support ticket created. Can't log in, fix now. Priority low, priority low. Wesley in IT support knew the drill. If the request came from Adrian and didn't copy me, it went to the bottom of the pile. Good kid, Wesley. I'd trained him well. The system was at 2 hours and 15 minutes, moving from curious to suspicious. Next stop, paranoid. And you really don't want a multi-million-dollar logistics network getting paranoid. At 11:10 a.m., the real show started. System alert, load balancing failure, node 4 unresponsive. I'd built this infrastructure like a house of cards, but held together with very specific logic. Every hour, the load balancer asks permission to rotate encryption keys. No biometric handshake. It assumes the connection is compromised and starts cutting bridges. In the office, coffee machines were still working, lights were still on, but down in logistics, screens were starting to freeze. Jennifer would be hitting refresh right about now, wondering why the tracking system was spinning its wheels. My phone lit up with a text from Wesley. Boss, weird request from the prince. Says you quit. Please tell me that's a joke. Dashboard is flashing yellow. What's going on? I didn't reply. Let them marinate in their incompetence. At 11:20 a.m. my phone rang. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Hey Carl, it's Adrian. Hope no hard feelings. Quick question. Lucas is having trouble with his credentials. Does the system really need your scan, or is there a master code? Thanks. Quick question. The language of the incompetent. I typed back. Not a code, biometric only. 100 minutes left. The bar was filling up with the lunch crowd, construction guys mostly, dust on their boots, exhaustion in their eyes. My people. They nodded at me with that working man respect. We understood each other without words. At 11:30 a.m., the notifications were coming faster. Critical database lock initiated. API gateway timeout. FedEx connection severed. UPS connection severed. That last one was the big domino. We're a logistics company. If we can't talk to the shippers, we're just a warehouse full of expensive junk. The money was hemorrhaging now. $15,000 every hour, bleeding out into the digital void. My phone rang. Adrian again. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? I sounded bored, like I was reading the weather report. Carl! Adrian's voice was an octave higher. Why is the shipping module down? We're losing money. I told you, Adrian. Dead man's switch. The system thinks the cockpit is empty, so it's putting the plane in the ocean to keep it from being hijacked. Fix it. Give me the code. Can't give you a fingerprint over the phone, genius. This is sabotage. I'll sue you. I didn't do anything, Adrian. That's the point. The system is working exactly as designed. You fired the authorized administrator. This is on you. Lucas says he can bypass it. He's in the command shell right now. I actually laughed. Tell Lucas that if he tries to force mount the encrypted drive without the key, the system activates Scorched Earth Protocol, deletes the encryption headers. Data becomes noise forever. Muffled conversation on the other end. Lucas's voice, panicked. Wait, he said Scorched Earth? Dude, stop typing. Stop typing. You're bluffing, Adrian said, but his voice was shaking. Try me. You have 90 minutes. I hung up and ordered another bourbon. The bartender poured without comment. Rough day at the office? Best day I've had in years, I said. At 11:40 a.m., my phone was vibrating like an angry hornet. The WhatsApp group for night shift guys was blowing up. Anyone seen Carl? Adrian's running around screaming at the servers, literally screaming at metal boxes. Wesley says Carl got fired. If he's gone, who knows how to fix the legacy bridge? Lucas just asked me what Linux is. We're all doomed. I smiled. They weren't panicking about their jobs, they were panicking about the incompetence now running the show. Adrian's next move was predictable. When the toddler breaks the vase, he runs to Daddy. But here's the beautiful part. Mr. Montgomery was somewhere over the Pacific, flying in his Zen mode. The old man believes in disconnected international flights. No Wi-Fi, no satellite phone unless the plane's actually crashing. Adrian would be frantically dialing his father's emergency line, getting nothing but dead air. 11:45 a.m. New number calling. Mr. Patterson, this is Oliver from OmniCorp Support. Hey Oliver, how's the family? Good, thanks. Look, we got a priority emergency ticket from Adrian Montgomery. He's demanding we remote in and disable your biometric lock. Says he's acting CEO. Technically he is. Right, but here's the thing. I'm looking at the documentation you filed in 2022. The Guarantor Protocol explicitly states that any remote override attempt violates our federal data privacy agreement with defense contractors. If we force this, we trigger a federal audit. I took a slow sip. That sounds accurate, Oliver. So I literally cannot do it without losing my license and probably going to jail. I tried explaining this to Montgomery. He told me I was fired too. Sounds like him. Carl, what do you want me to do? Systems cascading. We're seeing 80% packet loss. Do nothing, Oliver. Follow protocol. Document everything. Already on it. Good luck, Carl. 75 minutes left. The fuse was burning, and upstairs 2 idiots were about to learn that some problems can't be solved with Daddy's money. 11:50 a.m. 70 minutes left. The thing about Adrian is he thought he was fighting a computer program. He didn't realize he was fighting the entire U.S. legal code regarding data privacy and defense contracts. I'd built that wall not to keep hackers out, but to keep idiots like him from getting in. Text from Wesley. Carl, Adrian's crying. Actual tears. He's banging on the conference room glass. Lucas is sitting on the floor with his head in his hands. The hallway lights just flickered. Is that normal? Load shedding, I texted back. Systems cutting power to non-essentials to preserve core memory. Tell everyone to save work locally. Network drives are about to vanish. You're terrifying. I love you. I wasn't terrifying. I was just thorough. 15 years of building systems teaches you to plan for every contingency, including incompetent leadership. 11:55 a.m., 65 minutes to digital doomsday. My phone rang. Adrian again. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Carl. His voice was different now. Gone was the boardroom arrogance, the shrill panic. This was the voice of a man staring into the abyss, realizing he forgot his safety gear. Hey, Adrian, find that sticky note yet? Please, he said quietly. Please, Carl, stop this. I'm sorry. Come back and fix it. We can negotiate a contract, consultant basis. Consultant basis, I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. You fire me after 15 years, humiliate me in front of a kid who wears hoodies to board meetings, and now you want to hire me back as a consultant. I can't restart the system, Carl. The contractors won't touch it. They're citing some legal thing. It's not some legal thing, Adrian. It's the law. Go to my desk. Is my laptop still there? Yes, it's right here. Open it. Access the guest account. Go to the folder marked Doomsday. Yes, I actually named it that. Open the PDF titled Compliance Protocols 2022. I heard him fumbling with the keyboard. Okay, I see it. 300 pages. Page 47, section 12A. Read the highlighted paragraph aloud. Silence. Then a shaky breath. In the event of a system-wide reset or administrative change, he read, voice trembling, the primary system guarantor must be physically present to authenticate chain of custody. Failure to provide biometric verification constitutes a breach of Federal Data Protection Act Level 4. Keep reading, Adrian. The bold text. Any attempt to bypass, circumvent, or spoof this authentication will result in automatic notification to Department of Homeland Security Cyber Division and immediate freeze of all company assets pending federal audit. Long, heavy, terrified silence. You rigged the system to call the feds, he whispered. I didn't rig it, Adrian. I secured it. We handled defense. Logistics. We move sensitive data. That protocol protects us from Russian hackers and apparently protects the company from you. What do? It was a plea, a child asking how to fix the expensive toy he'd broken. You can't do anything. You have 60 minutes. If I'm not there to scan my thumb, the system assumes you're a hostile actor. It shuts down, locks the databases, deletes the keys, and files an automatic report to Washington. Come back, he begged. Name your price. Anything. I looked at the clock behind the bar. 12 p.m. Adrian, even if I left right now, it's a 15-minute drive. But here's the thing. I don't work there anymore. Remember? You fired me. Carl, wait. I hung up. The bartender had been listening with growing amusement. Sounds like someone's having a bad day. Kid bit off more than he could chew, I said. Thought he could run the show without understanding how the machinery works. 12:05 p.m. My phone exploded with notifications, then suddenly went quiet. One final message appeared. Critical threshold reached. Beginning lockdown sequence. The dominoes were falling now. In the office, it wouldn't just be frozen screens anymore. The smart building systems were integrated with the main network. Electronic door locks, badge readers, even the automatic blinds. Everything would start shutting down. Wesley's frantic voice note came through the group chat. Guys, the blinds just slammed shut, all of them at once. It's getting dark in here. AC's cutting out. And Adrian is having some kind of breakdown. Down in the warehouse, those little orange robots that pick orders had all stopped dead in their tracks. Millions of dollars in inventory. Frozen. Trucks were backing up at the loading dock like a traffic jam on the interstate. Then came the defection. According to the play-by-play from my guys, Lucas finally realized this wasn't a coding boot camp exercise. This was a federal incident in the making. He threw his iPad down, yelled something about not signing up for criminal charges, and literally ran for the stairwell. Even the elevators were locked down. Adrian was alone now in his glass box, sweating as the temperature climbed because the HVAC system had gone offline. My phone buzzed with a flight alert I'd set up years ago. Mr. Montgomery's private jet. Status, diverted. Reason, passenger request, priority landing. The cavalry was coming, but would they arrive in time? 12:15 p.m., 45 minutes left. I ordered one more bourbon and settled in to wait. The old man was probably getting his first look at the damage reports right about now. Somewhere over the Pacific, he was realizing his golden boy had just torpedoed the family business. The next hour was going to be very, very interesting. I checked my phone one more time. The system was holding steady in its death spiral, patient as a countdown timer on a bomb. Tick-tock, Adrian. Daddy was coming home, and he was not going to be happy about what he found. In the distance, I could hear sirens. Probably not related to our little corporate drama, but it felt appropriate. The emergency vehicles rushing around town while a different kind of emergency played out in the glass towers across the street. I lit another cigarette and waited for the fireworks to begin. 12:40 p.m. 20 minutes left. A black sedan screeched into the parking lot, hopping the curb to bypass the line of confused delivery trucks. Mr. Montgomery stepped out looking like a man who'd just watched his life's work catch fire from 35,000 feet. He spotted me through the bar window, jerked his head toward the building. Message received. I finished my bourbon, left a 20 on the bar, and walked out to meet my fate. Or his. We entered through the lobby where security guards stood around looking lost. The electronic turnstiles were frozen solid. Mr. Montgomery walked up to the nearest one, grabbed the metal bar, and kicked the mechanism so hard something snapped. It works now, he growled. We took the stairs. 12 flights. Montgomery climbed them 2 at a time, fueled by pure rage and adrenaline. I kept pace, my cardio aided by 15 years of contained frustration. The executive floor was tomb quiet except for the hum of emergency lighting. Adrian sat in the conference room like a defeated general, head on the table, surrounded by empty water bottles and the debris of his failure. Montgomery threw the door open. It hit the glass wall like a gunshot. "Dad!" Adrian jumped like he'd been electrocuted. "Thank God you're here. It's a disaster. Carl sabotaged everything." "Sabotage?" Montgomery's voice was deceptively calm. "Yes, he put some kind of virus in the system." Montgomery looked at his son with the kind of disappointment that cuts deeper than anger. "And why did he do that?" "Because we were making necessary changes and he got defensive about his job security." "He fired me," I said from the doorway. My voice cut through Adrian's excuses like a knife. Montgomery turned to his son. "You fired the systems guarantor while I was over the ocean? While we have 3 major defense contracts pending renewal? But Dad, Lucas said we could modernize everything, make it more efficient." "Where is this Lucas?" Adrian's face went red. "He had a family emergency. He ran," I clarified. Realized he couldn't hack a mainframe with an iPad and bolted before the federal investigation started. Montgomery stared at Adrian for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice could have frozen nitrogen. "Do you know why Carl is the guarantor? Do you know why I pay him more than most VPs? He's just IT support, Dad. We can outsource." "No!" Montgomery's roar shook the glass walls. "We cannot. Carl built the security architecture that gets us those defense contracts. He wrote the integration protocols that let us handle classified logistics. Without him, we're not a secure logistics company. We're just another trucking outfit." He slammed his hand on the table. "You didn't fire an employee. You pulled the pin on a grenade because you thought it looked pretty." Adrian shrank into his chair, finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake. Montgomery turned to me. "Fix it." I checked my watch. "Can't, sir. I'm not an employee anymore. Systems locked to authorized personnel only." Montgomery knew this dance. He'd been in business long enough to recognize leverage when he saw it. "Rehire him," he told Adrian. "What?" "Rehire him. Now. Apologize and rehire him." Adrian looked at me with the expression of a man swallowing broken glass. "Carl, I'm formally rehiring you. I apologize for the misunderstanding." "Sorry," I said, checking my nails. "Not interested in my old position. Workplace culture seems problematic." Montgomery let out a short, sharp laugh. "All right, Carl, you've made your point. What's it gonna take?" "Chief Technology Officer. Full autonomy over all systems. No interference from operations." I looked directly at Adrian, especially not from him. 30% salary increase, retroactive to start a fiscal year. 5-year guaranteed contract. And I want the corner office with the good view. "Done," Montgomery said without hesitation. "Adrian, pack your things. You're moving to the warehouse. You want to learn the business? Start with the loading dock. But Dad, 6 months minimum. Learn how the real work gets done. Maybe you'll appreciate the people who actually keep this company running." Montgomery looked at me. "Are we square?" "We're square, sir." "Then for the love of all that's holy, turn the lights back on before the feds show up." The walk to the server room felt like a victory march. Word had spread through the building faster than wildfire. Heads popped up from cubicles as I passed. Wesley was waiting at the server room door with a grin that could power the building. "Status report," I said, pulling out my analog backup key. "Core temperature critical. System's been in protected mode for 20 minutes. We're maybe 5 minutes from permanent lockdown." I unlocked the server room door. The rush of superheated air hit me like opening an oven. Servers screaming at maximum fan speed, status lights painting the room in angry reds and ambers. I sat down at my console, my chair, my domain, my kingdom. The biometric scanner glowed like a beacon in the dim room. "Ready?" Wesley asked. "Always have been." I pressed my thumb to the glass. Green light flooded the scanner. The screen flickered, red text vanishing like a bad dream. Biometric match confirmed. "Welcome back, Administrator Patterson. Canceling lockdown sequence. Restoring all systems." The resurrection began as a low rumble. AC units roaring back to life. Server lights cascading from red to amber to blessed green. Database connections rebuilding. API gateways handshaking with the outside world. "Systems nominal," Wesley shouted over the mechanical symphony. "We're back online." I leaned back in my chair and cracked my knuckles. From my locked desk drawer, I pulled out my emergency bourbon, the good stuff I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. I poured a shot into my coffee mug and raised it in a silent toast to the blinking lights around me. Sometimes the good guys win. Sometimes experience beats privilege. Sometimes the people who actually do the work get the respect they deserve. I fired up my email to send one message to the company. Systems restored. Regular operations resumed. Any future system changes require CTO approval. Carl Patterson, Chief Technology Officer. Then I lit a cigarette, metaphorically because of the fire suppression system, and got back to work. I had a company to run.